Today, on episode 39 of the Cohesive Home podcast, we're talking about radically reframing the way you think about your family's life together. Maybe you're familiar already with the idea of your life as a story, so we're going to dig into that today.
I'm actually really excited to talk about this topic, but before we jump in, I just have to preface that my 6-month-old is totally awake, and so if you hear little baby noises, he's right next to me.
Hi, Eddie.
It's just mom life.
He's so cute. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows we have kids, and, you know, if my dog starts barking, sorry, not sorry. I'm just kidding. It's life.
Is what it is.
It's life. So speaking of life,
yes,
life is kind of what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So I am really excited about this topic. Melissa and I came across it at a Donald Miller conference that we went to several years ago called Streamlined. And if you've listened to our podcast for some time, you've probably heard us mention it.
Yep. Yeah.
And actually, I don't think the conference isn't happening anymore. The one we went to was the last one, which is kind of sad because it was so good.
It was really good. It was.
So we want to share with you a little bit about what we learned at that conference, only 2 years later, and also to kind of share our own twist on it. So Melissa, do you remember when I mentioned in one of our past episodes how I've been listening to a lot of Rob Bell podcasts lately?
Yes.
Yeah, still going strong. And there is one called The Sign of Jonah. And in it, Rob Bell talks about what makes a really good memoir, like what makes you want to actually read a story. And he talks about how you don't want to read about a person who, their life is so awesome, and then they did something else super awesome. And what do you know? They also married an awesome person, and they had awesome kids, and then the end of their life was awesome.
Yeah, and nothing bad ever happened.
Right. Yeah. But it's not just that. It's that's kind of a boring story. And so I guess what we want to talk about today is what kind of story are you showing the world? What is your life story? And would someone want to read it, or would they want to watch the movie version of it?
Right. Because in our current world, how we are completely inundated with screens, we're inundated with stories along with those screens, whether it's in a 30-second commercial or it's in an Instagram story or you read it on a blog post. There's always going to be some sort of plot line that draws you in. And so I know a lot of times I can look at my life and go, well, that's kind of boring. I'm not really doing anything that would be readable or be worth sharing, other than like, oh, look, I have a cute dog or something. I don't know. So
cute kids,
we're really cute kids. Okay. Sorry. I don't know why I overlooked them, but, basically, we want to encourage you in today's podcast to look at your family's story, in a way that can enrich someone else's life and help them to possibly get over hurdles in their life, because we can all encourage someone by our story, whether you think you can or not.
Yeah, I think that is so good, Melissa. And I also think it is super important to not get distracted by other people's stories, because their story is not yours. Like, you have to remember that you are called to live your own life and not the ones that you see online.
So how would we, you and I, Cohesive Home, how would we suggest to everyone listening to create a better story for their family?
Yes. So I think there's 3 things that we can definitely start with, which is to talk about what are you drawn to? Where have you gone in the past, and where are you going? So let's talk a little bit more about each of those.
So first, what are you drawn to? What we mean by that is what kind of what is your heart drawn to, your values, your core things that you kind of base all of your decisions on, all of your goals on, your dreams. It's that core value in you. So that, like, what are you drawn to?
Yes. So, for example, something that I have thought about for years now is travel. And if you've listened to the podcast, I talk a lot about it. I'm not doing as much as I want to, but for some reason, I am so drawn to travel, and specifically road travel with my family. And right, Melissa, you have certain things that you are very much drawn to.
Yeah, so we really are drawn to international travel a little more than maybe local travel, but it's still travel. It's still that very wanderlust sort of spirit. I think that's one reason why Kate and I are such good friends. We have that in common. So our family is definitely drawn to that, and just experiencing cultures and new things. So.
And maybe, what you're drawn to is totally different. Maybe you're drawn toward building community in your home, or, maybe you want to really focus on your kids' education, or writing a book, or anything else that has just been... Sorry. I'm sorry, my baby's totally making fart noises, so background ambience. But, just whatever is pulling at your heartstrings, those things that you cannot get out of your head. And it might not be external. It might be these internal values that you'll then later connect to an action.
Yeah. Well, I think one way that we can, and we've talked about this a lot in the past, but one way to kind of see what you are drawn to that might shape what you're drawn to would be your past. And so the second point would be to look, where have you gone?
Thinking about where you have gone basically means, like, what has happened in your past? What are the overarching experiences that have happened? How have they shaped you? And thinking about how those have shaped you, do you want those to continue to act in your life going forward? So I think we can, like Melissa was saying, we can learn so much about ourselves and our families based on how we've spent our time and, honestly, how we've spent our money. So that was one of the things that we learned at that conference, was thinking about your life as a storyboard. And so if you can just get a visual of, like, all of the major events that have happened in your life, right? Like, you can kind of list all of those slides from today and back. And then we want to look forward into the future and be intentional about creating the rest of that story.
So now that you kind of have that storyboard in your head, next you're going to ask yourself, all right, now based on this maybe overarching theme that you have going on, where are you going? You draw from your values, you see from the, what's happened in the past, and then you say, okay, well, where do we want to go in the future? And is that where you want to go? Because you could say, oh, well, we're going here. Okay, well, is that really what you want? Or is that happening because of choices you've made that you can change?
Ooh, that's good stuff, Melissa, because I think so many of us get stuck in a rut, and we tell ourselves these lies that, like, I can't change my life. I can't, like, where I am is where I am, and I'm just going to have to learn to be happy in it. So he's not happy. But if you're listening, have you ever said that to yourself? Have you ever thought, this is my life, I can't change it, I'm stuck? Any of those. We want to change the way we think.
Yes. So what is stopping you? What's making you sit there and go, well, that's not really what I want, but it's what I'm doing. There's going to be three main things. The first is fear. And Kate and I have talked numerous times about having an entire podcast about fear, because it is something that I believe in our current culture grips everyone in every aspect of our lives.
Well, we've been talking about recording that episode, but I think we're afraid to.
But
yeah. No, but really, we will very soon be recording a long format episode on fear because we feel like it is so important. So stay tuned for that.
Yes, it is very important. So next would be other people's opinions. And this is something that I struggle with when it comes to family opinions. I feel like other people I don't care so much about. I really just don't give a hoot. They can eat it. But my family that's hard. When I don't have their approval, or if I have an opinion that might be, they just think I'm super weird, which is like all the time. That's hard. That stops me a lot of times.
Yeah. Yes, that is a very hard one that I've also struggled with in the past. And then I think a lot of us just, we do worry, like, well, what do others think of us? What do our neighbors and our friends and, the people at our kids' school or our work, right? Like there's everyone else's expectations of what makes a good life. And, if you're not doing what's normal and expected, then people will let you know.
Yep. They will. And I think people don't really realize they do it most of the time. But they really feel like it's okay to just give an opinion. And especially, again, I bring up screens because people hide behind them and they can give opinions through a comment or whatever, a text, and they don't get to see your reaction. They can say it with that shroud and it makes it okay. And so, that's a whole other episode.
But my question for you listening is, at the end of your life, does it matter what any of those people thought? And will you wish, or I hate to use the R word, but will you regret that you didn't follow the plan for your life, what you felt called to do?
Yeah.
So we want to look forward to the end and make sure that we don't have regrets.
Right.
But occasionally, our life stories encounter a plot twist.
Plot twists. Bum, bum, bum. So are these going to be negative or positive, Kate? You want to share yours?
Well, I'm just going to preface this with, I think that we go through multiple plot twists in our lives, and some of them are in our control, some of them aren't. You mentioned if they're negative or positive. I think that that's how we view it. Yeah. But I think that we can learn from any situation that we experience that is hard and difficult. And ultimately, it might change who we are as a person.
Right.
I'm totally avoiding your actual question, which was to talk about plot twists in my life.
Well, are you going to, or are you just going to totally avoid it?
No, well, so my family's major plot twist, at least recently, is this. Earlier this year, my husband was not able to get as much work as he had hoped with a freelance job he had started. So we had kind of had high hopes for this job, and it was all around when our little guy was born that we had some pretty serious financial instability, and it went on for months.
Yeah.
Yeah, he remembers, but and we're currently digging out of that, and then trying to move in a new direction. And I to be honest with you guys, it snowed me under. Mm-hmm. So between dealing with that and just being postpartum, I was like, man, are we ever going to get out of this? But I see the light at the end of the tunnel. We have an awesome plan for 2018, which hopefully I can share with you guys soon. And instead of looking at it negatively as I had been for months, I'm seeing that as an important part of our story, because we had to work together as a team and work to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it wasn't just you going through it. It was Kirk too. You guys had to kind of come together and go, oh, wait. Yeah, this is, we can do this. And so, yeah.
And as you know, like anytime you experience something like that, it's not just you and your partner, it's your kids, right? Like even if they're little, it's just your whole household. You're dealing with it together. So.
Yes. That whole energy changes and it's hard.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Melissa? What would you say is like one of your more recent plot twists?
Recent. Well, okay, so I was thinking back to what you said about, how Rob Bell in his podcast, he said that a good memoir story would be one with, like we're talking about plot twists. And if you were to say that, oh, your life has been just basically this happened and then this happened and this happened, it's all been good, that's not really a great story. Well, I had things in my childhood and stuff maybe that I could, I guess, view as being negative, but generally I tend to just look at everything positively. And I have been very blessed in my life. I haven't had, things, circumstances to maybe, or struggles to get over, which I'm not, I don't know. So my story, I've always thought was kind of boring, right? Like just don't really have too much to share. But kind of, I think as soon as you start to choose a different path or you start to make choices that might go against the grain. So like when we moved to Germany, we sold everything, moved to Germany. And then, for us, it was really hard. It was a lot harder than we expected. And I would have to say that was probably one of the biggest hurdles and plot twists that I didn't expect was the struggle and just, coming back. And so the last 3 years, we've just kind of, we say jokingly, but there really is some truth in it that we've been mourning that life change of coming back from Germany for 3 years. And I think we're just now noticing that we're still mourning that. And so that, even though it's been a long plot twist, has been like 3 years, these last 3 years have been kind of a slow and gradual learning process for us. Now, just, it's so funny, like Kate and I, this seems to happen always at the same time. Maybe we spur each other on, but hopefully we'll be able to share too in the next couple months some new things that our family is really gearing towards in 2018 as well. So having those dreams has helped us kind of get through that. But yeah, it was a long plot twist, but it was one.
But that's okay. I mean, that's life. And, Melissa, I'm really happy that I've been able to kind of, watch your family walk through this and also be able to know your secret about what's coming next.
Hey, same with you.
Yeah.
No, we've definitely been shoulders to cry on.
I know, or like phone shoulders.
Yeah, phone shoulders.
Is that a thing?
It should be.
Oh gosh, it's just, these plot twists, like you have a problem, you work through it, you find a solution, and then you move forward. And that's the place we want to be in, is like the moving forward part of our lives, the next step.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what's stopping you is like just doing it, making the change. So if the path your life is taking isn't what you want, then just do something about it, because you have the power to change it, whether you think you do or not. I always tell people, I'm like, okay, there is always a loophole somewhere and you can find it. Just think hard. It may not be easy, but you can do it.
And I think also too, not seeking perfection. I feel like perfection is such a dream killer.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to like over research everything. And then if it doesn't, like, oh shoot, well, this little tiny part of it's not going to work out. Therefore, like, let's throw the whole idea out and just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's easier.
Yeah, exactly. I have been asked so many times about my glasses through Instagram or just people that we meet on the street. I mean, all the time. They're like, oh, I love your glasses, whatever. So we have actually partnered with warbyparker.com because my glasses are Warby Parker. Kate actually also has a pair of Warby Parker glasses. And
True that.
but if you go to warbyparkertrial.com/cohesive home, you will get 5 pairs for 5 days, and it is 100% free. So definitely head to that link. We'll put it in our show notes. Again, that's warbyparkertrial.com/cohesive home, so that you can try on some new glasses and look schnazzy like we do. When you have a goal or a dream, or you have an idea to change something, there's always seemingly this end goal, this ending, this finality to something. However, what I'm learning recently is that no matter what happens, there's never just an end until the very end. There's never an end. There's always going to be something else that you're going to want to strive for, a dream or a goal with your family that you want to go after. Because once you kind of maybe reach that first one, there's always going to be another one. So I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but other than just know that there's not this like end goal nirvana that is going to happen.
Yes. Oh, that's so good, Melissa. And I think that applies to like everything in life, right? Mm-hmm. We had someone email us and ask us, like, do you ever reach a point with minimalism where like you don't stop wanting things?
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, nope. I mean,
I always like the Target dollar section.
Right? I mean, it gets easier because you've decluttered, you've gone through the pain of that. Yeah. You've identified your values and like why you're not buying a bunch of stuff. But yeah, there's temptation, man. It exists. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be there unless you're like a saint, perfect person.
Or you're me. Like on Walden Pond.
Man, you're on it today, Melissa.
Yeah, thanks. So at the end, at the end. So someday, long time from now, how do you want to be remembered?
As I sit here holding my little guy, my little baby, I know that he is going to grow up so incredibly fast, right? And my 3 kids, like, they're going to be out the door before I know what even hit me. And so the thing I keep coming back to is, what is the legacy that I want my kids to retain? What are the values that I want them to have? And also to remember as they start families of their own. I think it's really important to think about as we imagine our family story.
No matter how you choose to live your life, you have one. And there will be stories of you. There will be a legacy that you leave. And so just that's what we can leave with you today, is just think about your story. And if you really are truly living the story you want to live.
Amen, sister. Thank you so much for listening today. We hope that we gave you some little nuggets of wisdom to think about your family's story. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you left us a review or if you just shared it with someone. That would be awesome. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.